Hello, and welcome to Buyer's Remorse, the show where I go through Justin's list of unwanted games that are just lying down there in the basement.
Unplayed. Not necessarily unwanted, just unplayed.
Those poor little games just screaming for attention. And I help them get some attention and some love from Justin. And this week, I chose a wonderful little gem for Justin to play called... What was it called, Justin?
No, you're nice to me this week. It was Hitman Absolution.
Oh, I was nice to you this week. Hitman Absolution.
So you set that all up for the wrong one. Because it's next week where I'm going to have one that's a bit not so great. No, you were thinking Cavern Escape.
I was
that's
thinking
next
Cavern Escape.
Week.
Buyer's Remorse.
All right, okay, so I actually did you a favor this time. And yeah, you played Hitman Absolution, which, well, tell us all about it.
Well, actually, before we get into Absolution, I do just want to do a quick update to the listeners. Mm-hmm. I have finished the game that we discussed before, which is the game VVVVVV, 6 Vs, or however you would want to say that. It was frustrating, it was difficult, but it was fun. At the end, it gave me some final stats. My stats were trinkets found, 11 out of 20. Game time, 3 hours, 22 minutes, 59 seconds. Total flips, 4,873. Total deaths, 1,333. And hardest room with 114 deaths was the time slip room. And I knew pretty much that even before I knew the room from what it gave me, I knew that was going to be the room because that was the most frustrating room for me. It is a tough mechanic that probably most people get through easily, but it's something that I personally struggled with. And yeah, so
113 deaths.
114, yes. Well earned, but now finally finished.
Good. Put it to bed.
Mm-hmm. So now, Absolution. What do you want to know?
First of all, well, what kind of game is this? Because there's so many different kinds of Hitman games.
Are there?
Yeah, well, there's like the Go games. There's the sniper games where you're only sniping through onto like ships
I've never
and
played
stuff.
those. My history with Hitman Absolution is playing a bit of the original one, and I think a little bit of the second one, but most of my experience with Hitman was actually watching a roommate play.
Okay.
Hitman originally didn't appeal to me as much. I enjoyed the games. I thought they were pretty good games, but the story for me, especially in like the first one and even into the second one, didn't really hit me in a way that I appreciated. It also seemed to be the kind of game where you get a mission and then that's level 1 and then they give you another mission and then that's level 2. There didn't feel like a lot of coherent storytelling going on in the early days, much as I would say the original Thief game as well. So I enjoyed them, but I didn't like them as much. And stealth games are very hit or miss with me. I tend to lose patience at some point. That's where something like a Dishonored works for me, because if I mess up, then it just becomes a fighting, shooting game. And the original couple Hitman games didn't feel like that. It felt like once you messed up, you were done and you basically had to start the level over.
Yeah, I played the original one and it was like, if you get caught, then you can try and go all out bloodbath, but you're outgunned, outnumbered, toast.
Which I would say is probably true of this game as well, but not to that level. You can actually mess up and still make it through a lot of times. So I would say Absolution is much, much better for me and my style of play than the earlier games that I had played.
So what's it about then? What's the kind of... You said there's a little bit more of a story to this one. What is the story without spoiling too much, I guess?
Okay, so the point of the podcast is we play for 1 hour. The problem is I have already played through for right to the end of the story. So I played all the way through the story. The story isn't overly complicated. I remember you were concerned that my hour would mostly be tutorial, and it kind of was, but it's tutorial through an opening level. So it doesn't feel like it's the kind of tutorial where you're actually playing and you're learning while you're playing. It's just a much, much easier level. So
I like that in a game. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. So it's fine. It was tutorial mostly, but and when it comes to story, I've missed a lot of the story because I've essentially skipped from Hitman 2 to Absolution, and there were a number of games between those. Our handler, Diana Burnwood, apparently betrayed the agency.
Shock. Horror.
In a previous game, and therefore we are now sent after her. And of course, because there's this kind of connection, she did it for a good reason. And it's because she basically stole a child from the agency. And it's not a huge leap of storytelling to guess why they took her or why she was important to an agency full of hitmen and assassins. So you could basically put that together, but that's basically the whole idea. Is the opening hour I played was the tutorial going through to kill her and find out the information, and that's it. And that's the story, and then that story then continues through the rest of the game. It's all about the child, protecting the child, but not the kind of escort missions that we hate. She's off to the side most of the time, but we have to get to the people who want her before they get to her, essentially. So even though each level is very different and you are just going from level to level, they're all based around that central story element, which for me makes it work.
Okay, sounds good. What were your kind of, what would you say would be the best thing about this game and maybe the worst thing about it? What did you like and dislike about it?
Honestly, there are a lot of things I did like about it. You have a number of people that you can take out and then kind of use their clothes to wear. And so you disguise yourself, but you can't disguise yourself so well that people don't recognize you. In the way that, for example, if I knock out a police officer, take his uniform, and I'm walking around, other police officers will recognize the fact that I'm not a police officer. And I think that that's a pretty good move. There's a little way around that, but for the most part, I usually got caught. Because there was a weird kind of energy called intuition that you can build up, and then you can kind of use that to hide as you're walking near other people who would recognize you or do special moves. But I never, even all the way through playing it, didn't quite understand the best way to use that.
So if you take on the persona of the cop, then you can walk past normal people. They're not going to recognize you, but if you walk past other police officers, they're going to recognize you. And so you have to use that button maybe to blend in or just hide your face. Oh, I'm not the person you're looking for. I'm writing in my notebook, writing up some perps. All right, cool.
So I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed, along with that, the idea that there are challenges. And so these challenges earn you bonus points. And points are important. Experience points are important because each level, in fact, each section of a level has a level up, like an ability improvement.
Is it like a skill tree or?
It's not a skill tree. It's basically you earn them as you go. I'm not exactly sure how it works. I assume that there is a list and you go in order and you earn them each time you successfully earn points on a level. So say, for example, level 1, the first part, you might pick up perk 1. And then if you don't get enough points on the second one, you don't get that one, but you might be able to pick it up on the next level if you get enough experience points in that one. So it's not a tree. You don't get to choose. The game gives them to you as you earn them.
So it's like a kind of a linear leveling up where they're channeling you in this direction to level up your character. Okay. But did that feel a bit restricted though? Does it work for the game? It sounds it sounds too linear, almost like.
I don't know. This is a very linear game, so it seems to apply. This isn't a Skyrim where you're walking around in a sandbox and you can choose really different styles of play. The game is designed to have you be stealth. Most of the points are for stealth. You don't get a lot of points for running around and shooting everybody, giving away your location all the time.
Like I would play.
In fact, you get negative points for that. That for me is actually what I would say is the thing I like the least about the game. Well, second least. I don't like the fact that it tells me how to play. It gives me a whole lot of very interesting options for how to kill people, but some of them are not very stealthy. Some of the challenges are opposing. So there's one where you need to find every possible disguise in the level, and that's pretty much every level is called Chameleon. And then the other challenge is called Suit Only, so you never put on a disguise.
So they're wanting you to play through twice then at least.
Right. It's great for replay value, but it's not great for trying to get everything the first time. You can't.
Right.
I will say, though, do like the replay value in the fact that the challenges sometimes make me aware that there are very interesting different ways to kill people that I didn't realize, or things that you can do that I didn't realize. So for example, one basically alerted me that I could have used explosives to take out my mark. I didn't know that, so I had to look around a second time to find the explosives to make that work. And I think that's great as a game for replay value. In fact, like, there were a number of times where I saw a challenge at the end and I went, oh, actually, I do want to try that, so I would try the level again. The shorter levels, this was great. The longer levels, it didn't work as well for me.
How long is a longer level?
I don't think any of the levels are really that long, but if you try to stealth it and you try to do things kind of perfectly, it'll take a lot of time. It'll take a lot of going over again and again. And also, I think I'm just much slower when it comes to stealth games, so it takes me longer to get through levels, and I get very frustrated. So sometimes I get a bit flustered and then I keep making the same mistake multiple times. I don't think that this is a problem for most people. I think if people like this kind of game, this is a great game for stealth. This is a great game for trying out different things. People who want replay value, like, yeah, this is a great game. Where it does bother me, so I said number 2 was, the fact that you kind of have to be stealth, and the fact that they give you negative points if you do things that aren't stealthy. That really irritates me, mostly because I make a lot of mistakes. The thing that bothered me the most, though, and this ties into the fact that I'm currently playing Batman Arkham Knight, when you die, it often plays a short cutscene of the villain taunting you as you're dead. That's such a waste of time, and it is so irritating. And to do that every time. So on a challenging level, that's just really frustrating and annoying. And it's taunting not just you, the character, but it is really, I feel, taunting you, the player, in a way that just feels punishing, unfriendly. I hate it. I want games to stop doing this.
Like, what's wrong with you, you idiot? You can't pass this level.
Even in Arkham Knight or other Batman games, there are a handful that might be funny, but they're funny once. They're not funny 5 times. So when you build a challenging game, as I think this is, it feels like they're punishing you for wanting to try a challenging game, or to want to try to do anything that's a bit risky, because I don't want to have to go through that, and I don't want to have to start over again. That's one thing that's really frustrating, is you often have to start the whole section over again, which is good because you can do things totally different every time, but it means if it took me 15 minutes to set up things the way I wanted to before, it's going to take me 15 minutes to set it up again. So there are times where it feels like it's just wasting my time.
And you can't rush it either, especially if you're trying to be stealthy and you got to wait inside a bin for this person to walk past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that whole thing of the slow iteration time is what I would probably say is the biggest downfall. From the taunting, from the having to start over and not having any sort of save points. I understand why they choose to do this, but this is why stealth games don't often work for me. Whereas something like Dishonored, where I could save it at different sections, it did work for me in a way that I would replay that one much more often than I would replay this one, I think.
So did you finish it then?
I did finish it, yeah.
Wow. So you went the whole way. How long did it take you to finish the whole game then?
Honestly,
The story mode anyway?
I couldn't tell you honestly now.
Like 5 hours? More? 10?
I don't know.
20? 30?
You can say all sorts of numbers.
Okay, start
I
at
have
1,
no...
1, 2, 3,
You could
4,
look it
5,
up if
6.
you really want to know.
So thumbs up or thumbs down then?
I definitely think it's a thumbs up. If you like stealth games, if you like shooting games, if you like the kind of game that gives you multiple choices on how to do things, I think, yeah, this is a game that will be good for you. I will say it's frustrating. It can be very frustrating at times, but it plays well. The mechanics are good. The idea is good. The levels look great. It's in pretty much every way a great game for stealth. And the story is not exactly the most original, but it holds the game together a bit. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if those are the type of games you like. If you hate those type of games, you may not want to.
Yeah. Actually, when you were saying about like the costumes and you got to find all of the different outfits, to get the chameleon reward, how cool would it be to have a crossover between Hitman and stacking? Like, stacking graphics, but you have to kill people. That'd be great. I'd play that.
Double Fine. It's down to you, pretty much. Only you could make this happen.
Your move, Double Fine. We want a Hitman killing stacking game.
I think your real question here is, would I recommend this to you? And I would say it's a great game, but I think that your description of the way you played Dishonored was that you often just ran through and destroyed everyone. That's not really what you do with this game. I think that would frustrate you a bit. So for you, I would definitely say it's a good game, caution you about the iteration time, and say, get it on sale.
Yeah.
But to most people, I would say, if you like the Hitman series, yes. Well, if you like the Hitman series, you probably already played it. We're a bit late to the game on this one. But I think most people would enjoy it, honestly.
All right. Yeah, so 3 tags then. How would you tag this game?
Probably stealth, because I think that's probably the most important. I want to say first-person shooter, but it's not really that. So what I would say is stealth choices, because you are given multiple ways to do everything. I guess story. It's not the strongest, but I do feel like it holds the game together. I'm not really sure what the best 3 tags for this one would be, but yeah, I would go with those 3, I think.
All right.
Buyer's confirmation.
Thank you for listening. If you like what we do here on Buyer's Remorse, we also have another podcast called Filling in the Gaps, in which we take in-depth looks at puzzle games and puzzling movies. Give it a shot. We also have a Steam group.
Steam group is just Filling in the Gaps Steam page in the community. You can find us there. We do lots of puzzles to solve to win free games. Sometimes we just give them away for free anyway. And you're welcome to join us over there.
If you have any questions for us, suggestions for us, you can reach us. Probably the best way is through email, which is buyersremorsepodcast@gmail.com. No apostrophe in there, just Buyer's Remorse Podcast. Thanks for listening.